Hi and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks. Remember, you're never too old to have your shin bones snap like chalk in the produce section of a Walmart.
Hello and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks. I went to a new record store the other day, Circus Books and Records or something on the Danforth, and picked up a few things, so I thought I'd share what I've digitized so far. This was Michael Kamen, number one. Little nice gatefold here. Nice go. There's the inner sleeve. I love these inner sleeves. They just don't make shit like this anymore. I mean, look at that. I could look at those all day. When I was a kid, this was the kind of thing. I used to look at these and think, God, I wish I had all these albums. Now I've got quite a few of them, but you can never have all of them. So there's the inner sleeve. There he is, looking a little like Noddy Holder from Slade in that picture. This is kind of a slightly above average rock album, though it's not his main claim to fame being a rock star. Kind of looks like a rock star there, doesn't he? With the band. He was a gigantically popular arranger. He worked with Pink Floyd on The Wall. He worked with Queen, Roger Daltrey, Aerosmith, Eric Clapton, Tom Petty, Bon Jovi, Brian Ferry, Metallica, Rush. Well, you get the idea. This guy was incredibly popular, coming in and helping to either do the orchestrations, and in fact he often led the orchestra. He was the conductor of the orchestra in many of these sessions. Plus he also did a lot of movie scores. I think he was nominated twice for an Academy Award, won 3 Grammy Awards. He also co-wrote Everything I Do for You, which was on The Prince of Thieves. That was Michael Kamen. When Annie Lennox won her Academy Award for Into the West in 2004, she dedicated her achievement to Michael Kamen. And also Dave Gilmour dedicated On an Island to Michael. So a major, major deal guy. Next we have Seth Austen. This is a great Sunday morning album. It's The Road Over the Rainbow, and he does play Somewhere Over the Rainbow on this, and it's the only song that actually has singing on it. This is a perfect Sunday morning album. Some really nice acoustic guitar work. He also plays mandolin. I think there's a little violin on this, as I recall. Well worth checking out if you can get it for a few bucks. That's a really, as I said, Sunday morning, feeling like you want to kick back and listen to some pretty tunes. This is the Tigers. These were a new wave band, I think 1980. I just picked this up, because this was a real golden era for me, from sort of like 78 through 85 kind of thing before I moved to LA, that I would, just couldn't get enough of new wave bands. And this one's okay. This is, there's no Psycho Killer on this, there's no Heart of Glass on this, but these are good, enjoyable songs with that sound. It's called Savage Music. That new wave sound from the day. I really enjoyed it. Next up, I picked up Cinema Red and Blue. This is sort of an indie supergroup. This was put together by Comet Gaines' David Feck. It's a one-off album. I really enjoyed this. It's kind of grungy, light pop kind of sound. It's got a little bit of an edge to it, but they're all basically pop songs. Really enjoyable stuff, especially Ballad of a Vision Pure and Far Out Isn't Far Enough, or worth the price of it. If I paid $5, and it was well worth the $5. Okay, next I thought I'd liven things up a little. Here's Lighthouse. This is their first album. I can remember this being a cheapie back in the day. This one is not a cutout. It's a terrible album cover, and terrible for glare, and terrible for ring wear. You can see a little bit here. This one actually is pretty good for ring wear, considering what it is. I mean, there's a lighthouse right here. If you look really closely, it's not a good idea. This cover was just not. But the music on this is really good. It's psyche, proggy kind of stuff. Not as poppy as when Bob McBride joined the band and they had their, most of their big success later in the 70s. This is from '69, I believe. But there's a really nice version of 8 Miles High on this, and a song called Life Can Be So Simple is basically top-notch Lighthouse, worthy of the poppy stuff on the other albums. But this doesn't need to be poppy. It's just a good fusion-y band album. Okay, now we go with the Gods. Thought I'd pick up a little metal. This is kind of, they're from Ohio. This came out in '78. They're sort of an Aerosmith light. In fact, you can't see it on this, but there was a picture. That's a metal band, isn't it? Right there, dog collar, all that kind of grim-looking people. Apparently, there was also a New York band called the Gods, and they had to bring the lawyers in to decide that the Ohio Gods got to keep the name. They warmed up for Kiss and Cheap Trick before they landed their contract with Millennium Records. It's right down there. A great review in Rolling Stone Record Guide described them as a miserable hard rock quartet from Columbus, Beavertown. I like that. They were a wild band, especially the lead singer, and Eric Moore. I think he and a number of the people in that band are dead. Going on to L'Étranger, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce this. It's kind of a dark, folky kind of thing. Words, lots of words. They have a lot to say, this band. And I kind of like it. Not the most tuneful of records. Certainly they paint a dark world, with Innocent Hands being the title of this EP. Both of the main members of this band, Andrew Cash and Chuck Angus, went into politics and became members of parliament for the NDP party. For those outside of Canada, that's kind of the socialist leaning party that's supported by a lot of the unions. So yeah, Andrew Cash went on to actually quite a successful couple of solo albums, and then got into politics, and I think he just lost the election, actually. We just had an election up here, and he did not retake his seat from the Liberal, I think. Okay, this is The Risk, Invitation to the Blues. There are really no blues on this. This is from 1987. One of the things I found interesting about this album is there's actually a write-up, and by the 87, you almost never get little write-ups on the back of albums. They talked about their sadness that the sound and the attitude of the late 70s, early 80s, kind of, what I talked about, that great period of new wave music had kind of dissipated. And this is 87. It hadn't been gone too long, but these guys really liked that stuff and wished it'd come back. They're a little jammy. They remind me of the House Martins in spots. This is good pop with a little bit edge. Really like this album. What I really liked about this album, Jet Lag, Beautiful Scars, I got it sealed, and inside the seal was this free single, which, reminded me of the old days when you had Elvis Costello put out, he had the live from Hollywood High on Armed Forces. Tom Robinson had a free EP in Power in the Darkness with some great songs. This leads me to a dark moment. On my blog, I talk extensively about my Claudio record cleaner, which I absolutely love. And it takes albums, maybe some of these, from, say, a VG to almost a mint minus. It goes in and it scrubs all the crap out of the grooves that's been there for 10, 15 years, or 50 years in some cases, and really removes a ton of the surface noise and the pop and crackle from even, poor records. That being said, There were two accessories that came with it, and I bought them, and they came in this package. This was one package. These are $200 a piece, and I'm not saying that to brag about how much I spent or what a big an idiot I am to spend, just for the fact that these things are expensive. This is the one for to convert to singles from albums. Basically, say this was an album. There's a little slot in the top of the Claudio, and you drop the record down into it, and it spins. Well, obviously, if it's a single or it's a 10-inch, that can't happen. You need to have it centered, so especially so the label doesn't get soaked. So you have these. Now, the first time I used this was yesterday. I thought, on the Jet Lag album, I thought, what a perfect excuse to finally pull this out and try it out. I'm one of those guys, and if you buy one of these Claudios, you're bound to be one of these people who take vinyl very, very seriously. When I pick it up, it's like I'm holding nitroglycerin. I'm terrified that I'm going to do anything to damage that vinyl. And trying to put the single inside this thing with these, you've got these little metal, and I guess they're metal because they need to be solid, but they're very tough, and pulling these back, well, if you're pulling two of them back to get the vinyl in, wear your hands to put the single in there. And getting it out was a nightmare. I'm sure I scratched the outer edge of it,